All right, let's take the conversation further then. We are now joined by DA Shadow Minister of COGTA and National Spokesperson Cilliers Brink. A very good afternoon to you, and thanks very much for joining us here on SABC News, Cilliers.
Good afternoon. It's good to be with you.
Let's start here. Of course, your leader talking about what he says is only one of the 9 steps that the DA is taking to ensure that the president is held accountable. There's certainly a lot of people focusing on this particular issue of approaching the FBI. Let's talk about these 9 steps, but in particular, if you could zoom in on the approach of the DA approaching the FBI.
So, as John Steenhuisen made clear, we do not have faith in South African law enforcement agencies to deal with this matter effectively and impartially on their own. Many of the cases that we have reported to police over the years, including, ironically, the case against Arthur Fraser, have never been properly investigated because we suspect that the apparatus of the state have become entangled with internal ANC politics. But we do believe that if we can help piece together different bits of evidence, we can exert sufficient pressure for that evidence to be verified, and then it will make it more likely for law enforcement and prosecution to treat the matter as it ought to have been treated. So the FBI is being approached because part of their mandate is to investigate possible money laundering and other irregularities committed when US dollars cross borders, which is clearly the case, or apparently the case, in this matter with the president and the theft on his farm. Yeah. And what we want the FBI to investigate is who was the source of this money. Because if we can track down the source of this money, we can possibly determine whether any of the laws were breached in the process.
Yeah, look, the president has said, look, I'm not talking about this further. I'm not entertaining this issue any further. And of course, you're not satisfied with that. But on the back of that, in his defense, he does say, well, let the law take its course. So in actual fact, you're technically in agreement with him in that he is saying let law enforcement step in and get involved. So where do you feel that your difference in approaching the matter is, since the president did say let the law take its course?
So if the president is listening to legal advice for his own sake, then perhaps, he should just say let the law take its course. But the president does occupy a higher office, and he has to serve a higher interest than his own political survival. And so it is in his interest not just to let the investigation happen, but to take the South African people into his confidence and explain what happened. So you would recall, with Nkandla, President Zuma said the exact same thing. Let the investigations take their course. That never happened. The truth of Nkandla was only exposed once political parties, civil society organizations exerted pressure, and of course then Public Protector Thuli Madonsela made certain findings. So the law doesn't just run its course. We have to insist that it runs its course, but beyond that, the president can make all of this go away, or he can face the consequences of his own actions, as he must in any event, by telling us, show us the invoice where this money came from, tell us who the parties to the transaction were, tell us how much money was held in US dollars for how long, and tell us why you didn't open a case with the South African police. And those are just some of the questions. But if the president can take us into his confidence, I think it can restore the confidence of the South African people in his integrity.
Yeah, I see that my colleague Kenny, while speaking to your leader John Steenhuisen, posed the question about whether or not the DA believes that President Cyril Ramaphosa should step aside. As some of the political parties have called for, I think the EFF as well as UDM have been quite vocal on the issue. I hear John Steenhuisen there saying that the party believes that it is premature to ask President Cyril Ramaphosa to step aside. What informs the idea that it is premature to request or to ask or to call for the president to step aside at this time?
Justice in this case can only be served once we have obtained and established the truth of what really happened. So we think that President Ramaphosa must be given the opportunity to explain himself. But beyond that, he has a duty to explain himself. Even if he resigns tomorrow, we still want to know what has happened, what is going on, what is the source of this money, and how long this type of business practice has been going on. So before we find the president guilty of a breach of the oath of office, we owe it to him, and he owes it to the country, to come clean and answer these questions that we've put to him. We think that is a fair request, and we think that's essential to the president if he has nothing to hide. Unfortunately, he has behaved in a way that suggests otherwise.
All right, Cilliers, thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated. That is Cilliers Brink, DA, Shadow Minister of COGTA, as well as the National Spokesperson.